The battle was over. The giant lay dead upon the field. The Philistines fled in panic, and Israel celebrated a victory that seemed impossible only moments before. A young shepherd from Bethlehem had defeated the greatest warrior of the age. His name was David, but while the people saw a military hero, events were already unfolding that would shape the future of the kingdom. For David's greatest victory that day was not over Goliath. It was the alliance he would forge with the heir to Israel's throne. After the battle, David was brought before King Saul. The king wanted to see the young man who had done what no soldier in Israel had dared to do. Standing nearby was Jonathan, Saul's eldest son, the crown prince, the future king of Israel, or so everyone believed. Saul's eldest son, the crown prince, the future king of Israel, or so everyone believed. Jonathan was no ordinary prince. He was already a proven warrior. He had shown courage, leadership, and faith. Earlier in Saul's reign, Jonathan had led daring military operations against the Philistines. If anyone appeared destined to inherit the throne, it was Jonathan. Yet something remarkable happened when Jonathan met David. The Bible tells us the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. For centuries, readers have admired this as one of the greatest friendships in the Bible, and indeed it was. But in the ancient world, the language of love often carried political meaning as well. This was also the language of power. In the ancient Near East, kings spoke of loving their servants. Vassals spoke of loving their rulers. The language of love could express loyalty, political commitment, alliance, and covenant obligations. Jonathan did not simply admire David, he entered into a covenant with him. This was not merely the language of emotion, it was also the language of power. Jonathan did not simply admire David, he entered into a covenant with him. A formal bond, a pledge of loyalty, an agreement that would endure through years of political turmoil and personal danger. Then Jonathan did something extraordinary. He removed his robe and gave it to David. His armor, his sword, his bow, and his belt. To modern readers, these may appear to be gifts between friends. But in the ancient world, these objects carried deep symbolic meaning. The robe represented status. The armor represented military authority. The sword and bow represented power. These were symbols associated with the heir to Israel's throne. Why would the crown prince surrender these symbols to a young shepherd? The Bible never explicitly answers the question. Yet the gesture remains one of the most remarkable moments in the entire David narrative. History was changing. Perhaps Jonathan saw in David the qualities of a future king. Perhaps he recognized that God was doing something new in Israel. Or perhaps he simply understood what others were unwilling to admit. From that moment, David was no longer merely a shepherd from Bethlehem. From that moment, David was no longer merely a shepherd from Bethlehem. He had gained something far more valuable than military glory. He had gained legitimacy, and he had gained it from within the royal family itself. David remained in Saul's service. The king sent him on military missions, and wherever David went, success followed. He defeated Israel's enemies. He inspired the soldiers. He won the admiration of the people. His reputation spread throughout the land. With every victory, David's popularity increased. His name became known in every town and village. The young shepherd was becoming a national hero, and Jonathan remained at his side, supporting him, protecting him, standing beside him, even when doing so would eventually place him in direct conflict with his own father. The covenant would become one of the defining relationships in history. The covenant between Jonathan and David would become one of the defining relationships in the history of Israel. It would survive political intrigue, civil conflict, assassination attempts, and even the collapse of Saul's dynasty. Yet beneath the surface, another story was beginning. For every victory won by David created a new problem for King Saul. The more successful David became, the more dangerous he appeared. The more the people admired him, the more Saul feared him. The seeds of conflict had already been planted. The rise of David was accelerating, and the balance of power within Israel was beginning to shift. The covenant between Jonathan and David marked a turning point. For the first time, a member of Saul's own house had aligned himself with David. Whether Jonathan fully understood the consequences or not, the effect was profound. The future king had found his most important ally. Inside the palace itself, the giant had fallen, the covenant had been made, and the road to the throne had begun. David had gained fame through victory. Now he gained legitimacy through alliance. But success always attracts attention, and attention often breeds suspicion. Soon, King Saul would begin to look upon David with different eyes, no longer as a servant, no longer as a hero, but as a threat. Episode 3. Saul's Jealousy. The Rise of David continues.